Hi everyone and welcome to our Facebook Live. My name's Alyssa and I'm the Marketing Manager here at Kitomba. And today I'm so pleased to be here with Paul Carbis from Carbis Business Management. Hey Paul.
Hi, good to be back.
Yes, good to have you here. How are you doing?
Yeah, busy as usual. So,
It sounds like you've been jet setting everywhere, here, there and everywhere.
yeah, although the second half of the year is always about taking on some new salons.
Nice.
So, one of the things that we do towards the second half of each year is we look for, some people who want some help to grow their businesses.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter what size business. We've got salons that have got half a dozen or more staff, and then we've got single operators. And it's just one of those nice things to be able to do is take on a couple of new ones in the latter half of the year. In the first half of the year, of course, we do our tour. And so time is, but now that that's over, we can help a couple of extra salons.
Cool. Amazing. And today you're going to help everyone watching here. We've got you here for what I'm really excited about and a really, really important part of business. And that is about reporting, and most specifically, the Kitomba Business Summary report. Now, this has, I think I can fairly say this, that this would be Kitomba's most popular report. And that's because it gives you complete transparency over what's happening in your business all in the one report. So it really does make your life easy. And I think I've probably said this a million times and probably other people have as well. If you run, any report, or if you only have time for one report, that should really be the Kitomba Business Summary report. So at the moment sorry, you go, Paul.
If I was coaching, there are only two reports I require you to send me each week. And they are the business summary and the sales breakdown by staff person.
There we go.
Those two reports are your secret to running your salon.
And you've heard it here. There we go. So secret tips from Paul. So at the moment we're doing a little bit of kind of a focus on the business summary report. So if you pop onto our social media, you will see that there are lots of bits and pieces flying around. I'm trying to help you guys out with this report. But today, and sorry, I should also quickly mention, so next week we've got Cameron and Hayley from the Kitomba team, and they're going to be taking you through the Kitomba business summary report, which will be amazing. But we really wanted to get Paul in here actually from the user's perspective today to talk about how he uses the report. And what I'm really excited about is the fact that he's not just going to focus on kind of what you would expect. He's actually going to focus on the numbers that he finds that most people don't really look at, but could add such amazing value to your business and really, really help you kind of achieve your goals and things like that. So that's what Paul's going to do today. We've got a little bit of a presentation as well, which I'll show, and you can actually see the numbers that he's talking about while he's chatting. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to be quiet now and I'm going to let the expert chat away.
Thank you. Look, everyone who looks at the business summary looks at the same things. They look at their total dollars. That's their bottom line. They see their total dollars. They will look at the customer numbers and maybe their treatment numbers, and they might look at their number of retail sales, right? Now, every salon owner will do that. That's normal. But there's a whole lot of really cool information that most salon owners don't look at. And I've picked out 5 things today that I think will blow you away once you get a handle on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, say I'm coaching you, you send me 2 reports. You send me your business summary and you send me your sales breakdown by staff person. And from that, I can tell you everything I need to know about your business. Okay. Now, I write all over your report, and I keep a running tally week by week to see whether or not all of the KPIs are improving. And that tells us lots of things. It tells us rate of improvement. It also tells us patterns, things like many salons at the moment are falling into a week on, week off pattern. So customer numbers are high one week, lower the next. Retail total sales are high and then lower the next. And it falls into a pattern where people are being paid fortnightly, for instance. Right? So you get areas like Palmerston North is a good one. all the public services, so the army, the hospital, all the school teachers, the UCOL, the university, all get paid fortnightly.
Ah.
So you tend to have a really big week and then a slightly down week. And that can be what the hell's going on. But when you see the pattern, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I write all over the report.
Should I show everyone?
The sort of thing I do. Okay.
This is an example.
This is a photocopy of one of the reports from a typical salon I deal with. Now, many salon owners will look straight at the $17,000 turnover. They'd look at the 189 customers and the 256 treatments. They're normal. You might even look and see that there were 103 retail sales for the week. Now, this is a fairly big salon. It's a successful salon. And so this is something that, but look at the details that I write all over it. There's a whole lot of more information that I've worked out that most salon owners don't even look at. And they can be, so jobs along the top that I need done this week, an hourly rate. I look at the average spend per customer. I look at the number of treatments that are high-end services, like high profit services versus, and so you'll see on that page, 34% of all the work done in that salon was high-end services, big profit services. And so there's a whole lot of information that can be gleaned from this one report if you take the time to look at it. Now, I've picked 5 things that most people don't look at, and I want to run through why they're so important today. All right. So the first one that we're going to look at, Alyssa. Fantastic.
Here we go.
So this is that same report without my writing on it. Okay. Now, on every business summary, there is a thing called the visit rate. Okay. Now, the visit rate calculates how often or the time between visits on average of your customers. Right. Now, in this particular example, it says that the customers on average come 9 times per year or every 5.5 weeks. Now, that's getting up towards the high end of what I like, but this particular salon does a lot of skin needling and does a lot of IPL and laser treatments and also does a lot of RF, radio frequency. Now, these treatments require 6 weeks between the treatments. And so their average time between visits will be slightly higher. Whereas a salon that's doing mainly waxing, nails, those sorts of things should be closer to every 4 weeks. Does it make sense? All right. Now, why is this important? Okay, let's take this exact example. If this salon had clients coming back every 4 weeks, they would be getting 13 visits per year. Now, you can see right in the middle of the page, their average spend per customer is $92.18. Mm-hmm. So if they are seeing a customer 13 times a year at an average of $92, and let's just say they had 500 regular customers. Now, this salon, this particular one, is seeing almost 200 clients a week. Multiply that by 4 weeks, they've probably got closer to 1,000 regular customers, but let's just do 500. So if we had 13 visits, multiplied by $92 average spend per visit, multiplied by 500 customers, they'd be making somewhere close to $598,000, say $600,000 a year. Now, here's where it becomes interesting. If that figure falls to 6 weeks per visit, they only visit 8 times per year. Okay. Now that means it's 8 times 92 times 500, which is only $368,000 a year. Wow. So there's a difference of over $230,000 $100,000 a year just by getting the time between treatments shorter.
Yeah.
Now, most of the time, the minute you make your staff, excuse me, aware that this is a problem, they'll fix it.
Mhm.
And then when you start to put strategies in place to get clients to rebook more regularly, all of a sudden you get more visits per year. And more visits per year means more dollars in the till. One of the easiest ways to add income to your bottom line in a year, and we're not talking a little bit of income, we're talking $100,000 or more dollars income, is to decrease the time between visits.
Yeah, it really is an incredible number, and we've we've looked into this a lot at Kitomba as well, and written quite a bit of content around it, just because it can make such a significant difference. And also it's actually it's in your hands to tell your clients when they need to come back. It's not actually in your client's control, really, if you're imparting the right knowledge to them and saying, I need to see you in 4 weeks. Like, it can't be egged out to 6. And so it really can be, if you understand this number, like you say, the minute you understand it, you have the ability to actually control it too. And so very quickly you can see a huge increase in revenue, which is amazing.
Yeah. So I look closely at that every week. And depending on the mix of high-end treatments, it should fall between 4 and 5 weeks. In this particular salon, I accept the fact that it's 5.5 because they do so many treatments that should be done 6 weeks apart. So it's individual for each salon, but yeah, it's a really important one. And if you want to put dollars straight onto your bottom line, get that time between treatments down to as close as you can to 4 weeks. All right. The second thing that I want to look at is how many new clients you're getting, but not just how many new clients you're getting, but how many are you rebooking? Right. There are so many salons out there spending a lot of money, whether it be on traditional advertising, social media, website development, signage, email blasts, text messages. It doesn't really matter how. They're spending an enormous amount of money trying to get new clients in the door. That's how you grow your business, customer numbers. Now, even a referral program has a cost to it. All right. So I see salons spending an enormous amount of money doing that, and yet their customer numbers overall don't seem to be growing all that much. In other words, what they're doing is they've got a hole in the bottom of their bucket and they're leaking as many customers as what they're getting in new in the top. One of the ways to do something about that is to look at how many new customers you're actually seeing per week. And is that steady? Is it growing? Does it increase after a certain campaign that you do? You know, you need to be looking and monitoring what campaigns bring in more new customers. Now, it's one thing to work really hard and get new customers, but it's another thing to get them to come back. And what we see is a lot of salons wasting an awful lot of money to get the customer in the first place, and yet staff aren't getting them back. Now, there is an exception to this rule, and that is if you're in a tourist area, like, for instance, Queenstown last week and this week, it's the middle of school holidays, they're going to have an enormous number of new clients who are going to come in for a massage, a manicure, a pedicure, get their nails done, those sorts of things, as a one-off, and they're not coming back.
Yeah.
I get that. But for the average salon in Auckland, Sydney, Christchurch, Wellington, doesn't matter where, the new client rate will be fairly constant throughout the year. And when we do campaigns to get new clients in, we need to see increases in those new client numbers, but we also need to see a new client rebooking being high. And too often, it's not. Now, what's reasonable? I've been doing this for a long time, and I think anything between 1/3 to half of the new clients rebooking before they leave is a reasonable expectation. But if you had 14 new clients here and only 2 of them rebooked, you've got a problem.
Mm.
Now, this particular salon you see has a 68% rebooking rate, 43% with new clients. That's not too bad.
Mhm.
All right. Now, this is a beauty salon. Getting clients back to beauty is a little bit harder than hair, but that's not terrible. So one of the things that we look at is how many of the new clients are rebooking before they leave. And in many cases, it's a case of putting into place first-time customer programs where you're literally bribing them or inviting them to come back. You can do this automatically with Kitomba. You can actually set that every new client gets a letter sent to them within an hour of their treatment finishing. And in that letter, there's a voucher inviting them to come back. And you can see that there's a new client retention at the bottom. That means that the clients rebooked within 24 hours, which is different to client rebooking. That means they rebooked before they left.
Oh, so I think rebooking is within 24 hours and retention's within, as long as they rebook within a certain period of time.
Yeah,
I think
but
our definition.
Yeah, within even if it's a week, it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but we need to watch these numbers because you can do all this work and spend all this money to get people in the first place. But if the girls in the salon aren't doing their job by getting people to come back, all that money's to waste.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really important figure to be watching. And if you're not getting somewhere between 1/3 and a half of your customers that are new to the salon rebooking before they leave, then you've got a problem. Now, like I said, there's ways around that, and people like myself can help you put into place first-time customer programs where you encourage people to come back and use a voucher for their second booking. All of this can be automated on Kitomba, so it's really easy. And if you have a 1-month expiry on that voucher, you can send them another automated message in 3 weeks to remind them to use it. So it's actually a really easy way to do things.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So they're 2 of the things that I look at every week when I look at people's figures. The third one that I look at is a little bit different, and that is what I call my productivity factor. Okay, so if you look, there were 256 treatments completed by 168 appointments. Okay. Now, I'll break it down really easy. If you have 10 clients who have 10 appointments, that's 10 phone calls making inquiries, 10 bookings, 10 greetings, 10 confirmation texts, 10 room setups, 10 lots of linen, 10 treatments, 10 retail sales, 10 rebookings, 10 goodbyes, 10 thank yous afterwards. Okay. But if those 10 clients had 2 treatments when they came in rather than just 1, you have 20 treatments, but still only have 10 inquiries, 10 bookings, 10. And so productivity goes through the roof, especially when you don't have room changes, especially when they're using the same linen, especially when there's only 1 hello and 1 goodbye, especially when there's only 1 lot of resale sales, especially, you got the idea?
Yeah.
And so one of the factors that I look at is I look at how many of the treatments versus how many customers are having appointments. And this becomes I do a calculation. But my experience says that if you don't have 45% of your customers having it more than 1 treatment, then you need to do something about your productivity. And we're talking massive amounts of saved hours. We're talking massive amounts of money if you can get clients to have more than one treatment each time they visit. And so it's a really good figure to look at and calculate each week. So this particular salon, if you look at the 256 treatments on 168 appointments, 52% of their clients had more than one treatment when they visited. Now, that's a fantastic result and means that the salon's super productive, and it really helps their hourly rate of how many dollars per hour they make. So a salon that has 10 clients and 10 treatments versus a salon that has 10 clients and 20 treatments, you can see up to $20 income per hour difference over the week. Now, the average salon's open for 60 hours, and if you've got 3 girls working, that's 108 hours, say. Well, let's say you do 120 hours, and at $20 an hour, that's an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a really important one to watch. And so I look at this figure all the time, and I put into place what I call crossover marketing, where we invite certain parts of our database. So let's say all the people who have had a massage that have never had a manicure or pedicure, and we give them an offer that's too good to refuse to try and tempt them to have a manicure or pedicure. Now, my facial clients don't care that I'm doing this. They're not bothered. I'm not bugging my waxing clients when I do this. I'm not bugging my nail clients. I'm only bothering my massage clients. In a couple of weeks' time, I can then do all of my facial clients that have never had a massage. And again, in this situation, I'm not bothering my waxing clients. I'm not bothering my tinting clients. I'm not bothering my suntan clients. It's only my facial clients. And so you're just targeting one part of your database to try something else. And if the permutations and combinations are endless, you can do this for a whole year quite easily. And what it does is it slowly but surely means that you're getting more customers take on more than one treatment when they come into the salon. And that improves the productivity through the roof. So that's the third one that most people wouldn't be looking at, but it's really important that you do.
Yeah, no, that's super smart. Also, I've just had a quick question. I'll just let you know, Shannon, directly as soon as we finish this, this will be saved on our Facebook page. So it'll be available for you to watch. So you don't have to stress out that you've just missed the first 20 minutes. It's always there, and we keep them on our Facebook, and we also save them onto our Instagram as well. So it's always available for everyone.
Okay.
Cool. On to the next one.
The fourth area that I look at are retail sales from appointments. Now, this particular salon does very well with retail sales. You can see that. They sold, $6,600 plus in retail. It made up a terrific 38% of their total income. They sold 103 items overall to 189 customers. I mean, that's a sensational hit rate of better than 1 in 2. For me, retail sales need to be at a hit rate of about 1 in 3. So if you have 60 customers, you should have sold 20 items, okay, overall. But most people add retail sales by appointment and walk-in sales together, and that gives them their total number of retail. That's fine. But walk-in sales are really interesting. Walk-in sales, you have no control over. They're really good because it means that in the past, the team has sold to people and they're replenishing their stock. And they're coming back and replenishing their stock. But you have no control over whether they do that this week or next week or the week after. And so relying on walk-in sales is a dangerous practice. Whereas retail sales by appointments, so in this case, we saw 168 appointments and we had 67 retail sales. Now, that's a very good hit rate of better than 1 in 3. Okay. So this one is a really good example of where girls are looking at the person in front of them, what the appointment is, what that person needs, and is selling appropriate amounts to those people as they see them. Now, I get a lot of people say, oh, but my clients have already bought things. Let me just pose a question to everyone who's watching this. I don't think there's any beauty therapists in this country who would deny that every one of their customers should have a cleanser, an eye cream, a hydrator, a moisturizer, and a sunscreen as a bare minimum. Now, Alyssa, I know you've got much more than that. We haven't gone into vitamin C or vitamin A or.
Yeah, I was stressing out thinking, is Paul gonna approve of my skincare?
But you'd agree that nearly every woman in this country should have those 5 basics.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's just 5. One of the things I get my salons to do is go through and have a look if your sales to appointments aren't at least a 1 in 3 hit rate to the number of appointments that you have. Go through and start looking at the history of the clients that we're in and seeing, do they have those 5 things? There are very few salons in the country where the majority of their clients have all 5 of those things within the last 3 months. And yet, that's roughly how long they should last.
Yeah.
So it's one way of looking. But you can also do things like, if my particular salon sells does a lot of massages. Okay, are we selling body products? Are there loofah gloves, body exfoliants, body moisturizers, body washes? Do we do a lot of manicures and pedicures where there should be cuticle oils and there should be nail hardeners? There should be all sorts of things like callus peels and so forth available for sale. And if they are not featuring, then why not? Similarly, if you do lots of waxing, why aren't we seeing body exfoliants and body moisturizers and loofah gloves, ingrown hair solutions? If you do, and so it doesn't matter what treatment you do. I had a client the other week and she said, my salon does mainly eyes. Well, I'd say every salon in the country mainly does eyes. That's probably the biggest category for every salon in the country. So ask yourself, how many eye creams were sold? How many lash conditioners were sold? How many mascaras and eyeliners and eye color? Or, there's a million things that can be sold for the eyes. And yet, very few people do. So one of the ways to check this is to look at not just total retail sales, but retail sales as a percentage of your appointments. And if it's not about 30% or better, then you need to go and address it.
Cool.
All right. Don't rely on walk-in sales. They're great, and the hard work's been done in the past, but it's not enough. You can't rely on it. And then the last one that I thought I'd touch on today is the average spend per customer. Now, when we look at the whole report, this little gem of a figure is often missed. And yet, it can tell you so much. So, what this figure says is, did we maximize the opportunities from each client that was put in front of us? That's basically what it's saying. Now, in New Zealand, that figure needs to sit somewhere between $80 and $100. Anything over $100 is outstanding. Anything under $80, you've got to start really questioning. Okay? Now, if you do lots of waxing and nails, it will be lower because you don't have the retail sales that go with those products that are high. If you do lots of IPL, laser, needling, those sorts of treatments, it might be above $100. If you do loads and loads of facials and are selling good retail from those facials, it will be higher as well. But this figure is comprised of 4 factors. It's basically the productivity that I was talking about before. The higher that productivity, the higher this average spend per customer will be. So if you're having less downtime and each customer is having more than one treatment, this number will be higher. So that's one that we need to look at. The second one that I look at is the mix of treatments that your salon does. Now, if you're not doing enough of the high-end treatments, this average spend per customer is going to be lower. And so it might be that you need to either buy in equipment or need to advertise that equipment that you have it. So we make the most money out of things like IPL and laser, radio frequency, cryo treatments, skin needling, mesotherapy, those sorts of things. They're our top tier. Our next tier would be things like facials and peels, microdermabrasion maybe. Our next tier would be things like massage, manicures and pedicures, okay? Now, if you take that group of 3 tiers, you want that to be 30 to 40% of all your workload. Now, if it is, then you would expect that this average spend per customer would be nice and high. One of the things I do is I look at what percentage of the salon's treatments were high-end services. And if they're not enough, then guess what we're going to be pushing in our marketing? Guess what we're going to be pushing in Facebook and Instagram and in our newsletters and so forth. So that's one of the things. The next one will be your retail sales numbers. Okay, so the number of items that you're selling every week. So if you're just not selling enough product, then you can't, your average spend per customer is just not going to be there. And like I said, for me, you want your retail sales to be a hit rate of about 1 in 3 or better. Now, for myself personally, I expect it to be 50-50, like 1 to 1. Senior therapists will regularly do better than 1 in 2. But across the board for the total salon, if you've got juniors and seniors, then 1 in 3 is probably acceptable. The last one is the type of products being sold. Okay. So you could have a girl that is selling 15 products to 20 clients, but if she's selling body lotions and nail varnishes and loofah gloves and body bath bombs, then you're not going to have a high turnover in retail. It's great she's making lots of sales, but there's got to be a high percentage of skincare and makeup in your retail sales mix. So in the salons that I work with, there are 3 categories that we monitor. They are skincare items, makeup items, and I also have become one to start monitoring whether or not we're selling supplements. So they're the 3 that I watch. But the type of products being sold becomes really important. The average skincare item is $100 or more. You've only got to sell 1 of those compared to 6 loofah gloves or lily petals, or you got the idea. So for me, having the right mix in your retail sales becomes the other reason why that average spend per customer would be nice and high. And not at $92, I'd have a smile on my face. So they're my 5 areas that not many people look at. It doesn't mean I don't look at lots of other things on the report, But they're the 5 areas that I think are worth getting this off Facebook later and slowly going through and checking your figures to see whether or not your figures are up to scratch. But even better, the top salon owners monitor these figures week by week by week. Some of them graph them, some of them keep a record week by week. So week 1, week 2, week 51, 52 per year. And then they've got the years almost like a table, and they can keep a track of whether or not these figures are growing in accordance to their planning. And it's a really good way of doing it. You also get to see, by tracking these figures, you get to see trends. Okay. So you look at things like, okay, after New Year, is it quiet until school goes back at the end of February, start of March? Then when's our next big surge? Is it Easter? Is it Mother's Day? What happens over the winter months? When do we start to see things kick off again for warmer weather with spring? How soon is Christmas? So, you know, anyone who's been around the industry as long as I have, we used to start really hammering Christmas in early November. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, it's 2 weeks before Christmas now before anyone is starting to really get their head around it's Christmas. And our sales don't really kick off anymore until that last 2 or 3 weeks. So things have changed quite considerably. So you need to be monitoring all your figures week 1, week 5, week 7, week 10, as the year goes on, for all of these different KPIs. And if you do that, you'll be able to get an insight into your business that you didn't realize. Now, the minute you see a problem and you act on it, you're putting money on your bottom line. It's that easy. And it's the beauty industry isn't about doing one thing really well. The beauty industry is about doing lots of things a little bit better. Improving your retail by 10%, improving your mix of services to include 10% more high-end services, improving your, and it's all of these little tweaks that will put hundreds of thousands of dollars on your bottom line quite easily. And I can't say it enough. You've got to be monitoring your KPIs every single week, and you need to be sitting girls down at least once a fortnight and going through their individual KPIs, because whilst we've got up on the screen here the overall for the salon, the business summary also goes on and lists every single employee with exactly the same information.
Awesome.
There you have it. They're my 5 that I look at that's different to what most people do.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. You can clearly see those are such crucial numbers, and thank you so much for your insights into, you know, what they actually mean, because, you know, it's not easy. We don't all understand. It can be a bit overwhelming when you first look at that report. But by just seeing you drill into those, and also how you can really start to improve them, that's amazing. And
there's
so
a number of business coaches around the country that do a good job. I don't necessarily have to work with a salon every week. There are lots of good salon owners out there who just need to spend an afternoon with me and go through a business summary to understand what they need to be looking at. And then they're smart enough to go away and do it themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you have to be tied up for 12 months or be on contracts and all this sort of thing. Some of this learning can be done very, very quickly and very, very easily. And it can really change a business just by spending a day or an afternoon with someone like myself.
Yeah, so true. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul. That was absolutely amazing. And we really, really appreciate you deep diving into the business summary report today. And thank you so much to everyone for watching. We really hope that you got something amazing out of this as well. And we'll see you on our next Facebook Live.
Bye for now.